Welcome to MBA 6601, which is the course called International Business. This is the PowerPoint lecture for Unit 1, Chapter 1. In this presentation, I want to cover material in the book from Chapter 1 and also some material that's not in the book but comes from some English language Vietnamese newspapers on the internet. I am Dr. Bruton, and it's my pleasure to be with you today. I have been with Columbia Southern University since 2003. Let me say that you are to be congratulated for working on your MBA degree. It will show others that you plan ahead and you work hard to achieve your goals. My expectations for you in this course are, number one, you'll read the course syllabus. Number two, you'll read the textbook. Number three, if you have questions, you will ask your tutor. And number four, review the presentation for each chapter covered in the course. I want you to know that there are no shortcuts. Do the work, learn the material. It will help you in your career. The Unit 2 assignment, which you can find in the course syllabus, is to write a 3 to 4 page essay on marketing a product that's manufactured in Vietnam but sold to the country of Turkey. In this presentation, we will cover some of the variables you will need to consider to do this. In each presentation, I try to find actual news events from your country that pertain to our topic. After that, I will cover the critical issues of the chapter, and the length of this presentation will be about 20 to 25 minutes from start to finish. Let's start with this headline. Vietnam gains record in state budget revenue in 2019. Now, if you want to read the article, you can Google that headline. The reason I chose that headline is that international business is a big part of your country's prosperity. Two things about that article got my attention. Number one, international business is growing in your country. Number two, about 95% of the revenue collected is from imports. Most countries try to tax their imports. These are called tariffs. This revenue collected is one of the reasons why governments like international business. This headline reads, Ho Chi Minh City Tourism Authority aims high in 2020. Now, the last slide was about the government collecting more taxes. This slide is about why companies like international business. When tourism increases, airlines fly more passengers both internationally and domestically. Hotels rent more rooms. Restaurants feed more people. Tourists pay money for guides. They pay cash for souvenirs. They pay money to go through museums. They hire more taxi drivers. This increased business puts people to work and puts more money in their pocket. For all this to happen, the world has to have an environment that promotes globalism. Just like when you are unlocking a combination safe, all of the tumblers have to fall in place for the door to open. So, according to the textbook, these are the factors that contribute to international business. The increase and expansion of technology. Each of you experiences the technology every day. Social media, internet, TV, radio, cell phones, software, trading platforms like Alibaba, Amazon, banking networks that guarantee secure payment. What more could you want? Number two, it's easy, relatively easy for workers, resources, money, and ideas to transcend international borders. Number three, governments try to make it easy to conduct international business. In a moment, we'll look at some of the things that the Vietnamese government is doing. Number four, in most developing countries, consumers have more money and they're buying things that are made in other countries. That cell phone in your pocket, it was probably assembled in China. Number five, companies are just like consumers. They're looking to get the best deal. They're learning how to make the global market work for them. Number six, governments are learning that more significant markets are more efficient and more productive. Consequently, the policies that they make are following that trend. And then number seven, countries are working together to build a more efficient marine ports, airports, railroads, and highways. More countries are participating in free trade agreements. Not everything is honey and butter. Some countries do not want to participate in international business, but for different reasons. Here's a summary of those reasons as listed in the textbook. Number one, threats to national sovereignty. Whenever you conduct trade with other countries and somehow a violation occurs, the arbitration is usually held by the World Trade Organization, the WTO. When that happens, the WTO can sometimes overrule local and national laws which appear that the host country is losing its sovereignty to a foreign court. Another version of this threat to national sovereignty is that small countries with unique cultures can be overrun with outside ideas and technology that ruin the indigenous culture. Number two, economic growth and environmental stress. When global trade is successful, countries and companies gear up for more production and manufacturing, more oil drilling, more resource mining. This causes environmental damage, air pollution, water pollution, solid waste pollution. Number three, growing income inequality and personal stress. Whenever you have a hierarchical manufacturing and distribution process going on, some people will do better than others. That's life. People like Jack Ma of Alibaba or Bill Gates of Microsoft are fortunate to be billionaires. There are only a few thousand of them on a planet with 8 billion people. This fight to gain wealth and success creates personal stress. Most of us can handle it, some people can't. Fortunately, the laws in our country try to make it fair for all, but some will always do better than others. Those are some of the reasons some countries do not want to participate in a global system of business. So why do countries encourage international business? We already looked at one news report that showed the government getting more tax revenue. More significant markets and more trade mean more revenue for the government. It also means more jobs for people. If people are working, it means they're not out there causing trouble. It also means that they make money that they can buy other products. More significant markets mean more variety of products, more choices. International business means eradication of cultural barriers. Cultural barriers should be porous, allowing people to experience different ways of life. Trade reduces the possibility of war. If people experience your culture, they understand you better. If people are prosperous, they don't want to go to war. So let me summarize. Government intervention in the international market creates jobs, raises domestic income, increases the tax base, provides environmental protection, gives a comparative advantage to your country, gives regional economic power to your country, and helps your allies. If you look at these reasons, they are political. Let me share a story with you about helping your allies. After World War II, much of Europe and Japan was devastated. No factories, no jobs, and the countries involved could get no taxes. The U.S. loaned billions of dollars. They built new factories in Germany and Japan, and for that matter, England, France, and Spain. Germany and Japan made products, but their citizens did not have any money to buy them. The U.S. imported the products with no tariffs, so Germany and Japan could get back on their feet. 75 years later, they still pay no or low tariffs on manufactured goods, while they tax American products coming into Europe. This was the trade policy until President Trump acknowledged the unfairness. And what you are witnessing now in the world is that President Trump is trying to redo the U.S. trade policy. Now, here is a slide that shows that the Vietnamese government is busy promoting trade opportunities and getting trade treaties. Let's read some of those headlines. Russia supports businesses in Vietnam. Right under it, Prime Minister promises to create optimal conditions to U.S. enterprises. In the middle, about 1,000 Japanese lawmakers, business people to visit Vietnam. If you look at the small print, that occurred in second week in January. On the right side, workshop discusses Vietnam-Laos economic diplomacy. It sounds like there's a trade deal or a trade treaty in the works. And then the last one at the bottom, Vietnam boosts bilateral, multilateral ties at a European conference. Now, a bilateral indicates a treaty between two countries. Multilateral indicates treaties between multiple countries. If you look in the small print, look at the countries mentioned, Romania, Kazakhstan, Spain, Ireland, and Bulgaria. Except for Spain and Ireland, which are already in the European Union, these are countries that you don't usually trade with. So there is evidence. Your country is busy promoting trade opportunities throughout the world. So why do companies engage in international business? All of the reasons can be summarized into these 4 goals. Number 1, to find new products and customers and expand sales. A company looks to find new customers to buy their current products. and new products to sell to their existing customers. Number two, companies are always looking for new resources and technology to help them reduce their cost of production and make their products better and cheaper. Number three, companies like to minimize risk. For example, Intel, a company that makes semiconductor computer chips, has 12 computer chip fabrication plants around the world. These are the computer chips that go in electric devices, in your cars, in your cell phones, and computers. They have fabrication plants in Hanoi, Malaysia, Israel, Costa Rica, and the United States. If there's an earthquake in the U.S. or a war in Israel, they have plants elsewhere they can fall back on. This is called mitigating the risk. They have low risk of chip manufacturing interruption. Number four, the new partners. The purpose of new partners is they come with more capital that can be invested in the business, new technology, and new ideas. That's why companies like international business. In summary, international business allows a company to achieve market penetration, achieve a low cost of resources, high production rates, risk reduction, competitive advantage, and a higher rate of return because of higher efficiency. Here is a slide with headlines showing international business being consummated in Vietnam. Some of the headlines read, Vietnam in deals to buy Laos electricity. That indicates a growth in business in Vietnam, and it's cheaper than building a new power plant. Russia's Gazprom, Petro Vietnam, sign a deal. It could be about drilling in the South China Sea, or could be about exchanging technology. Matsumoto to open a flagship cosmetics store. That indicates growing consumer demand. Vietnamese shipbuilders export 60 patrol boats to Nigeria. And Vietnamese automaker Taco exports 15 buses. Three of these headlines, if you look, three of these headlines indicate the business has found new customers. Two of the headlines indicate a search for resources. That's what international business is all about. The types of international business can be broken down into three categories. Category one is called merchandise. Those are tangible products, cars, scooters, candy bars, bottled water, cell phones, TVs. These are all physical products you can see and count. World exports in 2018 were about $19 trillion. Vietnamese exports in this category were about 245 billion, or a little over 1% of the world total. Category 2 is called services. These are products you cannot see, but you can experience. Examples would be tourism, transportation, insurance, consultants. Now the world export amount is $5.7 trillion. It's about a third, maybe a quarter of the merchandise total. Vietnam produced about $15 billion, or about a quarter of 1% of the world total. Category number 3 is investments. And there are two kinds of investment. Foreign direct investment comes from an outside source, such as a Korean company building a factory in Vietnam. I say Korean because the largest foreign investor in Vietnam is Samsung. Now, since 2009, they have invested $17.3 billion in Vietnam. The second kind of investment is called portfolio investment. A company, a financial company, might purchase stocks and bonds from different companies in order to meet their financial goals. So what kind of problems will you encounter in international business? Political problems is probably the top of the list. You will experience sanctions, boycotts, tariffs. For example, right now approximately 30 countries are boycotting Israel. Sanctions are another type of boycott. Countries like North Korea have sanctions on certain types of products. President Trump is expected to enact tariffs on every country that has not signed a trade deal with the U.S. Number two, legal issues. Issues with contracts, taxes, employment, unions, and foreign exchange will be at the top of your list. Copyrights, patents, trademarks have big problems in the past. Many countries do not enforce the laws, or they implement them only to their benefit. Frequently, government authorities are paid to benefit the local purveyor. This is a form of corruption. It's hard to fight corruption. Number three, supervisory oversight. It is hard to oversee a manufacturing plant from 1,000 miles away. What's even harder is finding someone you can trust to oversee the manufacturing plant for you. Number four, behavioral factors. Different cultures have different values. Many times those values are quite different from yours. Number five, economic forces. Some countries are in a perpetual recession, such as Egypt or Argentina. Some states do not allow interest to be charged on payments. Number six, geographical problems. In this category, the most prevalent would be logistical. Some countries have inadequate highway systems. Some have weak railroads, shoddy deep water ports. For example, Costa Rica has a terrible roadway system. Some water routes in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Somalia have to deal with pirates. If you are aware of these problems, you will be prepared to avoid them or to handle them as they come up. This comes from experience in dealing with international trade. This chapter gives you a good review of what to expect as we go forward to find out about international business. Next time we start Unit 2 with Chapter 2. Have a good day.